My name is Juliet Sinclair. I'm 31 years old, and I got laid off on a Thursday afternoon that smelled like burnt office coffee and panic disguised as professionalism. Tech company restructuring. Last hired, first fired. 5 years in software development reduced to a 10-minute Zoom meeting with an HR representative who sounded emotionally exhausted before the conversation even started. I remember staring at my reflection in the black laptop screen after the call ended. I didn't cry immediately. That was the strange part. I just sat there in silence, feeling like someone had quietly reached into my chest and removed an entire future while I was still using it. Before that day, my life had felt stable. Not glamorous, not perfect, but stable. I had been making $78,000 a year, enough to live comfortably in the city, enough to build savings, enough to slowly imagine marriage without fear. My boyfriend Adrian Cole and I had been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months. We lived separately, mostly because both of us valued independence, but we had already started talking about apartments, furniture, wedding venues, all the tiny domestic details people mistake for guarantees. Until Thursday, Adrian reacted strangely when I told him. Not cruel at first, just distant. Like the news had quietly lowered my value in his eyes before he consciously admitted it to himself. Friday evening, he came over to my apartment. I had spent the entire day updating my resume, contacting recruiters, applying for positions, trying to stay productive instead of collapsing emotionally. By the time Adrian arrived, I had cooked pasta, opened wine, lit candles. I think part of me desperately wanted normalcy. "So," he asked, while scrolling through his phone between bites, "how long until you find something else?" I shrugged carefully. "Hard to say. A few weeks, maybe? A couple months, worst case." "A couple months," he repeated slowly. Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. "I've got savings," I told him quickly. "About 6 months of expenses." "6 months," he said again. Then he gave this tiny expression. A subtle grimace. Like instability itself disgusted him. "I'll be okay," I added softly. He nodded, but his attention had already drifted somewhere else entirely. He left early that night, claiming he had a headache. The next morning, I woke up around 9 and made coffee before opening Instagram. That was when I saw the post. Adrian sitting in a coffee shop wearing his expensive gray coat, staring thoughtfully out the window, like he was auditioning to be the emotionally wounded lead in an indie film. The caption said, "Sometimes you outgrow people. Not everyone can match your energy and ambition. Choose yourself. Growth requires moving forward." Posted 4 hours earlier. His friends flooded the comments immediately. "You deserve better. Proud of you." Some people hold us back. I read every single comment twice. Then my phone buzzed. "We need to talk." I called him instantly. "What is that post about?" I asked.
Silence.
Then Adrian sighed dramatically. "Juliet, I've been thinking." My chest tightened immediately. "With everything happening lately," he continued carefully, "I don't think we're in the same place anymore." I laughed once. Not because anything was funny, because my brain literally refused to process what I was hearing. "I lost my job 2 days ago," I said slowly. "I know," he replied, "and honestly, it clarified some things for me." "What things?" "I'm building something important with my career. I need a partner who's equally driven." I stared at my kitchen wall in complete disbelief. Until Thursday, I had literally been earning more money than he was. Adrian worked as an HR coordinator, making around $52,000 a year. But suddenly, because I hit one professional setback, he spoke to me like I was dead weight. "So you're ending our relationship because I got laid off?" "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said." "You've become defensive," he snapped. "See? This is what I mean. I need someone who matches my mindset." My hands started shaking. 3 years together. 3 years. And the first moment life stopped being convenient for him, He abandoned me emotionally before the relationship had even officially ended. Then he said the sentence that permanently changed how I saw him. "You're just not on my level anymore, Juliet." I went completely still after that. Something cold settled inside me. Not heartbreak. Not yet.
Clarity.
"You know what?" I said quietly. "You're right." He paused, probably expecting tears.
Begging. Negotiation.
Instead, I opened Instagram again, stared at his stupid caption one final time, and commented a single word underneath it. Truth. Then I blocked him everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, phone number, email. Everything. Because sometimes agreeing with someone is the fastest way to remove yourself from their narrative entirely. The first week afterward hurt more than I expected. Not because I missed Adrian specifically, because I missed the version of him I thought existed. The loyal version. The loving version. The man I imagined would hold my hand during difficult seasons, instead of quietly calculating whether I was still valuable enough to keep. But grief has a strange way of clearing emotional fog. Every day after the breakup, I felt slightly lighter, slightly calmer, slightly more myself. 2 weeks later, I received a call from a startup company I'd interviewed with months earlier before the layoff happened. They had recently secured major funding and were aggressively hiring engineers. The CEO wanted to speak with me personally. His name was Ethan Vaughn. He was 34 years old.
Sharp-minded. Calm under pressure.
The kind of man who walked into rooms without needing to dominate them because confidence already surrounded him naturally. Our interview lasted nearly 2 hours. Not because he was interrogating me, because we genuinely clicked intellectually. He actually understood software architecture, actually asked technical questions, actually cared about how I solved problems instead of throwing around corporate buzzwords pretending to sound innovative. At one point, he leaned back in his chair and smiled slightly. "You think structurally," he said. "Most developers think tactically. That's rare." I felt myself blush embarrassingly hard. By the end of the interview, he folded his hands together calmly. "The position pays $165,000 base plus equity and full benefits," he said. "Can you start in 2 weeks?" I genuinely thought I misheard him. That was more than double my previous salary. "Yes," I answered immediately. "Absolutely." "Good," Ethan replied with a faint smile. "Welcome to the company, Juliet." That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the offer letter, while tears finally came. Not because of Adrian. Because for the first time since the layoff, I realized my life hadn't ended. It had redirected. 3 weeks after the breakup, I started the new job. The company was smaller than my previous employer, only around 30 employees, but the energy felt completely different. Hungry. Focused. Alive. And Ethan was deeply involved in everything. He wasn't one of those CEOs who disappeared into executive meetings while everyone else carried the actual company. He built alongside us, worked alongside us, solved problems alongside us. People respected him because he earned it. At first, our relationship remained completely professional. But over time, small moments accumulated quietly. Coffee runs between meetings. Conversations after presentations. Laughing together over disastrous beta launches. Late-night deadlines where exhaustion made honesty easier. Around 6 weeks after I started, we stayed late preparing for a product rollout. By 9 o'clock, the office was almost empty. Ethan looked over at me from across the conference table. "Want dinner?" he asked casually. "There's a Thai place nearby still open." We talked for almost 3 hours that night. Not about work. About family.
Childhood.
His divorce 2 years earlier. My breakup. Old fears. Old ambitions. There was something dangerously comforting about him. Not intoxicating in a chaotic way. Safe in a way I hadn't realized I needed. Walking back toward our cars, Ethan glanced at me carefully. "This was nice," he said softly. "We should do it again sometime, when we're not technically working." I smiled before I could stop myself. "I'd like that." And for the first time in months, the future didn't feel frightening anymore. It felt open. 2 months later, the company announced its annual holiday gala. Investors, clients,
Executives.
industry professionals, partners encouraged. Ethan invited me to dinner 3 nights before the event. Halfway through dessert, he set down his wine glass and looked directly at me. "Will you come with me?" "As your date?" I asked carefully. "Yes." I hesitated. "People will talk." "People always talk," Ethan replied calmly. "The important thing is whether they're telling the truth." I laughed softly. "You really don't care what people think, do you?" "I care about integrity," he said, "not gossip." Then his expression softened slightly. "I like you, Juliet." My heartbeat stumbled embarrassingly fast. "I like you too." What neither of us knew yet was that Adrian had already started trying to crawl back into my life the moment he realized losing me had been the biggest mistake he'd ever made. The strange thing about heartbreak is that people assume healing happens dramatically. Like one morning you wake up transformed, stronger.
Untouchable.
But for me, it happened quietly, in small moments. The first time I laughed without forcing it. The first morning I realized Adrian's name hadn't crossed my mind for hours. The first night I sat across from Ethan Vaughn and stopped comparing his kindness to the emotional starvation I had accepted for 3 years. Because once someone truly sees your value, it becomes impossible not to notice who spent years pretending not to. Ethan and I started dating carefully, slowly.
Intentionally.
No office gossip. No secret flirtation during meetings. No messy power games. At work, he treated me exactly like everyone else. Sometimes harsher, honestly. Which I respected. Outside of work, though, everything felt easy in a way relationships rarely do. Balanced. We challenged each other intellectually. We listened. We laughed constantly. And maybe the most shocking part of all was that Ethan never made me feel like love was something I had to earn through performance. I didn't need to impress him every second. I didn't need to prove my usefulness to deserve affection. He simply liked me. For me. About 2 months into the relationship, the company officially announced its annual holiday gala. A massive downtown event held at one of the city's luxury hotels. Investors. Executives. Tech founders. Media people. The kind of room Adrian used to fantasize about entering one day. The irony wasn't lost on me. 2 days before the gala, I received my first message from him. LinkedIn. Of all places. "Hey, Juliet, heard you found a new position. I'm genuinely happy for you. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime and catch up?" I stared at the screen for several seconds before quietly closing the app. No response. The next day, another message arrived. "I've been thinking about us a lot lately." Still ignored. Then, on the morning of the gala itself, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Adrian. Please don't block this one. I miss you." I made a mistake. I immediately knew one of our former coworkers had given him my new number. I blocked it without replying. Then I stood in my apartment, staring at my reflection, while trying to calm the strange anxiety building inside my chest. Not because I wanted him back. Because some wounds reopen the second someone reminds you they exist. Ethan picked me up at 7. When I opened my apartment door, he looked devastatingly handsome. Black suit. Minimal accessories. Subtle cologne.
Calm confidence.
He leaned lightly against the hallway wall and smiled when he saw me. "Navy blue was definitely the right choice," he said. I looked down at my dress and laughed nervously. "You sound very pleased with yourself." "I usually am." I rolled my eyes. Then he stepped closer, unexpectedly, adjusting a strand of hair near my shoulder. The gesture was gentle enough to make my chest ache. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Just nervous." "About the gala?" I hesitated. Maybe about being happy again. Something softened in Ethan's expression instantly. "You don't have to be afraid of good things, Juliet." God, nobody had ever spoken to me like that before. The hotel ballroom looked unreal. Golden lighting, crystal chandeliers, soft music floating beneath dozens of conversations, champagne glasses everywhere, people dressed like money itself. And somehow, walking beside Ethan, I didn't feel intimidated. I felt like I belonged there. That surprised me most of all. Throughout the evening, Ethan introduced me to investors, department leads, business partners. Not once did he diminish me into just his girlfriend. He spoke proudly about my work, my ideas, my contributions to the company. And every single time, I felt another piece of the damage Adrian caused quietly healing inside me. About an hour into the event, we were standing near one of the investor tables when I saw him. Adrian. Near the bar. Dark suit. Frozen expression. Bright amber-colored drink clutched tightly in his hand. For one horrifying second, our eyes locked across the ballroom. And I watched realization physically hit him. Because he wasn't looking at the unemployed woman he discarded anymore. He was looking at me standing beside Ethan Vaughn, with my hand lightly resting against his arm, while executives greeted us by name. He started walking toward us immediately. I felt my stomach drop. Ethan noticed instantly. "That's him?" he asked softly. I nodded once. His posture shifted almost imperceptibly closer to mine.
Protective.
Not possessive. Just present. "Juliet!" Adrian said loudly as he approached. Too loudly. Like he needed people nearby to notice him. I forced myself to remain calm. "Adrian." He stared at me for a second too long. And I could see it happening in real time.
Regret. Shock. Humiliation.
All mixing together behind his eyes. "You look..." He stopped himself awkwardly. "Really good." "Thank you." His attention finally shifted toward Ethan. "Oh," he said carefully. "Hi." "Hello," Ethan replied calmly. "I'm Adrian," he said quickly. "Juliet and I used to date." The tiny emphasis on "used to" felt deliberate. Like he needed to establish ownership over history itself. Ethan extended his hand politely. "Ethan Vaughn." Recognition flashed across Adrian's face immediately. The CEO. His entire body stiffened. Then he looked between us slowly. "You're here together?" "Yes," Ethan answered smoothly. Adrian forced out a laugh. "Wow, that was fast." I felt anger flicker through me instantly. Not explosive anger. Cold anger. The kind that comes from finally seeing manipulation clearly. "About as fast as you leaving me 2 days after I got laid off," I said quietly. His jaw tightened immediately. "That's not fair, isn't it?" I was going through things too. I almost laughed. Instead, I tilted my head slightly. "You posted online that you outgrew me because I lost my job." People nearby had started subtly listening. Adrian noticed. Panic flashed behind his eyes. "I didn't mean it like that. But you said it." That was emotional. "No," I replied calmly. "It was honest." The silence between us became suffocating. Then Ethan stepped in gracefully before the situation could become uglier. "Excuse us," he said politely. "We're due at another table." He didn't insult Adrian. Didn't embarrass him. Didn't escalate anything. Which somehow made Adrian look even smaller. As we walked away, I heard him call my name softly behind us. Not angry this time. Almost desperate. But I didn't turn around. Because some people only recognize your value once access to you disappears. "What are you feeling right now?" Ethan asked once we reached the opposite side of the ballroom. I exhaled slowly. "Honestly?" He nodded. "Relief?" And it was true. Seeing Adrian again didn't make me miss him. It made me realize how emotionally exhausted I used to feel all the time. The rest of the evening should have been ruined after that, but somehow it wasn't. Ethan danced with me, made me laugh, pulled me into conversations that had nothing to do with my past. For a few beautiful hours, Adrian became background noise. Until after midnight. The messages started arriving while Ethan and I sat in his kitchen, eating leftover desserts from the gala, barefoot and exhausted. First came an Instagram request from a brand new account. "We need to talk." Blocked. Then LinkedIn. "Can we please have a mature conversation?" Blocked again. Then an email, somehow sent to my work address. "You're being childish, Juliet." Ethan looked over my shoulder while pouring wine into 2 glasses. "He's spiraling," he said quietly. I rubbed my forehead tiredly. "He thinks I owe him access to me forever." "That's what people like Adrian believe," Ethan replied. "They confuse losing control with losing love." Then another text arrived from yet another unknown number. "So you're sleeping with your boss now? Is that how you got promoted so quickly?" The message made my stomach twist violently. Not because it hurt, because it sounded so bitterly familiar. Adrian always reduced people's success into manipulation whenever he felt inferior. I handed Ethan the phone silently. He read the message once, then set it down calmly. "Block everything," he said, "and save screenshots." "You think it'll get worse?" His expression darkened slightly. "I think men like him don't handle humiliation well." The next Monday morning proved he was right. The office receptionist stopped me the moment I arrived. "Juliet," she said carefully, "did someone named Adrian call here over the weekend?" Cold dread slid through me instantly. "What did he say?" "He claimed there was a family emergency and demanded your schedule." My chest tightened. "He got aggressive when we refused." I closed my eyes briefly. Of course he did. Because the gala hadn't just wounded his ego. It destroyed the fantasy he built about himself. The fantasy where he was always the one moving upward, while everyone else chased him. Now he had seen the truth. I hadn't fallen apart without him. I had become happier, more successful, more loved. And Adrian Cole could not stand it. By Tuesday morning, the situation became uglier. One of my former coworkers, Kevin, texted me before lunch. "Hey, thought you should know Adrian's telling people your relationship with Ethan is some kind of scandal." I stared at the message for several seconds before calling him immediately. "What exactly is he saying?" I asked. Kevin sighed heavily. "That you got fired from your old company for misconduct. That Ethan hired you because you manipulated him. That the relationship started before you got the job." I laughed once in disbelief. Not because it was funny. Because the lies were so embarrassingly transparent. "You know none of that is true." "I know," Kevin said quickly. "Most people do. But Adrian's acting weird. Obsessed, almost."
Obsessed.
The word stayed with me long after the call ended. Because that was exactly what it felt like. Not heartbreak. Not regret.
Obsession.
Like Adrian couldn't emotionally survive the reality that I succeeded after he discarded me. When I told Ethan about the rumors later that evening, he remained calm at first. Then I showed him screenshots. His expression hardened immediately. "This is defamation." "I think he just wants attention." "No," he corrected quietly. "He wants control back." The difference between those two things suddenly felt terrifyingly important. On Wednesday morning, an anonymous complaint arrived in HR's inbox. It accused Ethan of engaging in an inappropriate workplace relationship, claimed my hiring process was compromised, suggested I received preferential treatment because of our relationship. The complaint also repeated the false claim that I had been terminated from my previous employer for misconduct. Reading it made my skin crawl. Not because I believed any of it, because I recognized Adrian's voice hidden inside every sentence. The self-righteous wording, the passive-aggressive phrasing, the desperate attempt to sound intelligent while emotionally unraveling. HR called me in the next morning. I barely slept the night before. Part of me knew I had done nothing wrong. Another part feared how quickly lies can poison professional environments. The HR director, Marianne, greeted me kindly when I entered her office. "Juliet," she said gently, "we just need clarification regarding a complaint we received." I nodded carefully. Then I told her everything. The breakup, the social media post, the gala, the messages, the fake accounts, the office calls, the rumors. I showed screenshots of every interaction Adrian sent after the gala. By the time Marianne finished reading everything, her expression had shifted from professional concern to visible disbelief. "This appears to be targeted harassment from a former partner," she said carefully. "I think he's angry I moved on." Marianne exchanged a glance with another HR representative. "Your relationship with Ethan does not violate company policy. You are not his direct report. Your hiring process was documented thoroughly before the relationship began." Relief flooded through me so intensely, I almost cried. But Marianne wasn't finished. "If this behavior continues," she added quietly, "the company may pursue legal action to protect both you and Ethan." When I left the HR office, Ethan was waiting for me near the elevators. The moment he saw my face, he stepped closer. "You okay?" I nodded. HR cleared everything. Of course they did. Then he touched my wrist gently. "But you're still shaken." God. That was the thing about Ethan. He noticed emotional damage, even when I tried hiding it. "I hate this," I admitted quietly. "I hate that he still has the ability to disrupt my life." Ethan's eyes softened instantly. "He only has as much power as you emotionally hand him." "I know." "No," he said gently. "You understand it logically. That's different." That night, things escalated again. A cease and desist letter arrived, addressed to Ethan from Adrian's lawyer. The accusations were almost laughable. It claimed Ethan intentionally interfered with Adrian's relationship by pursuing me, suggested he damaged Adrian's emotional well-being, implied he manipulated company hiring decisions for personal gain. At one point, I actually covered my face with my hands in disbelief. This cannot be real. Ethan's company attorney read the entire thing silently before setting it down. "This is nonsense," he said flatly. Then he smiled slightly. "A very expensive kind of nonsense." Within 24 hours, Ethan's legal team responded with documented timelines, employment records, interview dates, communication history, and a very direct warning that further harassment would result in legal consequences. Everything dismantled Adrian's claims point by point.
Professionally. Coldly. Completely.
After that, silence followed for 3 days. I should have known it wouldn't last. Friday night, I was standing in Ethan's kitchen making pasta when my phone rang from another unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something made me answer anyway. "Hello?" Silence. Then breathing. Then Adrian's voice, slurred. "You ruined my life." I closed my eyes immediately. He sounded drunk. "Adrian." "No," he interrupted bitterly. "You paraded him around in front of everyone like some trophy." I leaned against the kitchen counter, exhausted already. "You dumped me. You replaced me." The sentence hung in the air for a second. And suddenly I understood everything. This was never about heartbreak. It was about ego. He genuinely believed I was supposed to stay emotionally frozen after he left me. Like my life should have paused permanently while he continued forward. "You ended the relationship because I lost my job," I said quietly. "Then I found a better one and moved on." "You think you're better than me now?" I almost laughed at the irony. because that accusation used to come from him constantly. Then his voice cracked unexpectedly. Brandon left me. I frowned. Who's Brandon? My business partner, Adrian muttered bitterly. He said I was obsessed with you. I went completely still for half a second before realizing what he meant. Not business partner. The alcohol was blurring his speech. Because there had never been any romantic relationship between Adrian and another man. And honestly, the clarification barely mattered compared to everything else unraveling emotionally inside that phone call. I'm not obsessed, Adrian continued weakly. I needed you to understand what you did to me. The sadness in his voice almost sounded genuine. Almost. But then he ruined it. He's using you, Juliet. Men like Ethan always want younger women around to worship them. There it was again. Bitterness disguised as concern. Contempt disguised as insight. The exact poison that destroyed us. I suddenly felt strangely calm. Not angry. Not hurt. Done. Goodbye, Adrian. Then I hung up and blocked the number. Again. Ethan appeared quietly from the kitchen doorway, holding 2 plates. That sounded final. I nodded slowly. I think I finally stopped feeling guilty for moving on. That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. The final explosion came the following week. Adrian created another anonymous social media account and posted a long rant about toxic corporate executives, emotionally manipulative leadership, and people who sleep their way into success. He tagged the company. Didn't use names. Didn't need to. The implication was obvious. The company's legal department responded immediately. Another cease and desist. This time including potential restraining order language. That finally ended it. No more calls. No more emails. No more fake complaints. No more rumors. Just silence. 4 months have passed since the gala now. Adrian moved to another city after taking a new job. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, the rumors he spread eventually collapsed under the weight of basic facts. Most people in professional industries care more about competence than gossip, especially when one person keeps escalating emotionally while the other stays calm. Work has been incredible. Last month, I received a formal promotion to lead developer after a documented performance review process that Ethan intentionally removed himself from entirely.
Transparent. Professional. Fair.
Exactly how healthy leadership should function. Ethan and I moved in together recently. And strangely enough, the apartment feels peaceful, in a way I never experienced with Adrian. No constant tension. No quiet competition. No subtle emotional punishments disguised as criticism. Just honesty.
Support. Mutual respect.
My parents adore him. My friends keep telling me I look lighter now. Happier. One afternoon a few weeks ago, I ran into one of Adrian's friends at a coffee shop. The woman recognized me instantly, then looked deeply uncomfortable before abruptly leaving without ordering anything. I almost laughed afterward, because whatever story Adrian originally told people clearly didn't survive contact with reality. Sometimes I think back to his old Instagram caption. Sometimes you outgrow people. And honestly, he was right. Just not in the way he imagined. He outgrew kindness.
Empathy. Loyalty.
And I outgrew needing someone else's approval to measure my worth. The funny part is that I never tried to get revenge. I didn't chase success to hurt him. I didn't date Ethan to make him jealous. I simply continued living after he abandoned me. That's what destroyed him in the end. Not my success. Not my relationship. The fact that I survived losing him and discovered my life became better afterward. That was the one reality Adrian could never emotionally accept. If there's one thing this entire experience taught me, it's this. Pay attention to how people treat you during your worst moments. Anyone can love you when life is easy. Real character reveals itself when circumstances become inconvenient. Adrian saw temporary unemployment and immediately questioned my value. Ethan saw uncertainty and still recognized my potential. That difference changed my entire life. And maybe the cruelest irony of all is that Adrian's post ended up becoming true. We really did outgrow each other. Truth.